What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Impel Forward podcast. I am your host, and my girl Renee is with me again.
Here I am. Woo woo. Again.
What's going on? You doing all right?
I'm doing all right. It's Sunday.
It's
Ready
Sunday.
to, wrap this week up so I can get my plans going.
Right. You ready for this interview with the army, the Black Hoodie Brigade?
Yeah.
Mr. Paul. And we're gonna get it. I'm gonna let you introduce him to everybody. And
yes.
We're gonna bring. Wait, you want to talk a little bit about him before we bring him on, or you want to bring him on and talk about him?
Well, I think I'll go ahead and I'll introduce him, and then I will have him speak because he is a man of plenty words, and I think what he is advocating for and what he does every day is something inspirational to all. He is a pillar of the community, and I'm just happy that I came across him. And I'm also happy that Paul, Mr. Paul Scott of the Black Hoodie Brigade in Durham, was, agreed to come on the show and talk more about it. So I want to hear more about the movement. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Let's bring him on. What's going on, brother?
Peace, family. It's an honor to be on your program this evening, indeed.
Yeah.
Like he got a little nice radio voice on him.
I know.
I used to do radio back in the day. Way back in the day.
Way back in the day.
What's way back in the day? Right. You used to do because you got a voice for it. So were you doing like the midnight? Were you doing like the kind of the affirmations, the inspirational, or were you doing like R&B nights?
No, I wasn't inspirational, nothing back in 1980, 88, 89. Mm-hmm. I was the hip hop kid on Foxy 107, back when hip hop was kind of outlaw type music.
Okay.
During my junior year at Central, I got an internship at Foxy. And I was the young kid. Everybody else was in the Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Time and Prince. So I'm coming in, this hip hop kid. I knew all about hip hop. So they kind of put the hip hop production responsibility on my shoulders.
Okay.
But no, there was nothing inspirational knowledge about me in 1988, 89 at all.
You got the inspiration. He got that little preacher whisper in his voice too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am a minister, so that's also, yeah.
Okay, so tell us where you are originally from.
I am originally from northeastern North Carolina, Halifax County, up that way. Lived in Fayetteville a lot. I had my development in Fayetteville. I think you're from Fayetteville as well, correct?
Yeah, I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Uh-huh. I'm from the Merc.
Okay, I'm from Hollywood Heights, cross town.
From Fayetteville, when we say we from the Merc. Now, actually, I'm from 2 blocks off the Merc.
Okay.
Over there where Old Broaddale, the other side of Old Broaddale, the rough side.
Okay.
Quite make it Broaddale. Yeah. So that's why I grew up during the 70s. So yeah.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 57.
57.
Oh,
okay.
wow. You don't look a day over 30.
Oh, bless your heart.
So tell us about this Black Hoodie Brigade movement. How did you get started with this?
Wow. For the ever since 1992, when I went to the No Bookstore for the first time. Well, actually I won't say for the first time, started going to the No Bookstore. And those who are from this area, Dr. Bruce Bridges, he used to have a bookstore on Fayetteville Street called the No Bookstore. He used to have a radio show called the Cultural Awareness Seminar. And I just started reading Black history. This is what, late 91, 92. I started studying. Thanks to Dr. Bruce, I was able to meet some of the greats in our liberation struggle, Kwame Ture, Dr. Ben, Rabbi Ben-Ami, H. Rap Brown, and countless other people. Dr. Ishaka Musa Barashango, Steve Coakley, and the list goes on. And those who are from Durham know that the No Bookstore was very fundamental in our development. So So I just started reading a lot about Black history. So my dream was one day, instead of having an operation where people would buy books, I would actually go on the street and give books away. So 20 years ago, I started going to the West End every Sunday and giving away free Black history books on the corner. And yeah, the West End got gentrified, became gentrified probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So I moved the operation to Bragtown and for 2 years ago. And instead of once a week, it's like 6 evenings out the week. Giving away books, giving away African wristbands, just stuff to promote the culture. Just stuff to promote the culture.
Now, why did you feel the need that you needed to do that?
Because nobody else is doing it. I mean, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but that's a lane that nobody really travels. When we talk about the youth in Durham and what needs to be done in Durham and all the millions and millions of dollars that are spent on youth programs in Durham, nobody is telling the youth, why don't you go back and study Joyce DeGroy's work on post-traumatic slavery syndrome? Why don't you go back and study the miseducation of the Negro, Dr. Carter G. Woodson? Or better yet, let me put this book in your hand so you can read it at your leisure. So that's why I do it. That's the road less traveled. There's almost a fear when it comes to our children learning about Black history. I'm not talking about the MAGAs and the Project 2025. I mean, among our own people.
Yeah.
There seems to be a fear that they're going to become militant. And I've said this many times. Many parents, mothers, fathers in this community, it's been my experience, they rather have their children be Bloods and Crips than Black Panthers. Because
really?
because psychologically, that goes back to that plantation theology. That if you do anything from the system, against the system, something bad is going to happen to you. If you do anything against the system, something bad is going to happen to you. And theologically speaking, and coming from a Black liberation theologically speaking, we have been taught since the plantation, if you fight systemic or systematic white supremacy, you're actually fighting God. So many of us, many parents feel that they are protecting their children by keeping them away from studying about the Robert Williams, the Malcolm X's, the Revolutionary Action Movement, and other things. They would rather take their chance of their child being a regular street gang.
Oh, I don't think that they would rather they child be in any gang.
Let's hope so.
But I do understand what you're saying as far as them not wanting to, like, I think you model your thing after the Black Panthers. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
I think I do understand where you're coming from as far as fighting and standing on issues against the government or white supremacy. I do understand that part, though.
But there's a fear.
Mm-hmm.
When J. Edgar Hoover, read this book, everybody, Racial Matters by Kenneth O'Reilly. He talks about COINTELPRO. And one of the things with COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program, that J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI in the late, well, actually since, I think he was part of the Bureau of Investigation, which was later the FBI from maybe the 30s up until the 70s. One of the things he tried to do is prevent the rise of a Messiah. And many people have interpreted that to mean a Black Messiah. So you will be surprised that of the mental gymnastics they did with our people. That so when they assassinated or helped to assassinate, which is documented, the Malcolm X's and the Martin Luther Kings and the Black Panther Party, that wasn't done to get rid of Dr. King. That wasn't done to get rid of Malcolm X. That was to make sure that any youth, especially that thought about being revolutionary, they're going to kill them. Excuse me, unalive them.
So it was an example.
They made an example. Same thing during our enslavement of our ancestors. The reason they did those lynchings with 2,000 people watching, the reason wasn't because of the person they lynched. The reason was that the people watching, if they even felt the need to rebel, they would have that image in their head, and not only in their head, that image would be passed down to their children.
So what initially, I know you say you started in 1992. I don't remember what you said about what initially started you on this path. Is something you experienced happen? Was you seeing things that you wanted to change? What exactly happened?
Really just reading.
Okay.
And hanging around the no bookstore. That's really what did it. When you are running into people like Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, and the heroes that you read about, it changes you. And being that I had that responsibility. I mean, since I had that blessing to be around those leaders, I felt a responsibility because, again, just like when I was doing radio, I was the hip hop person. When I came into the conscious movement, we don't say woke. We say conscious, which goes back to Steve Biko from South Africa. When I first joined the conscious movement, a lot of the elders, they were into Earth, Wind, and Fire. They were into James Brown. So I was the one who was into hip hop. So they gave me an assignment. They said, okay, we know all about pyramids. We know all about Marcus Garvey. We know all about these movements. We don't know about hip hop, so you do hip hop.
So when you're going around and you're handing out these books, how are people receiving this information from you? What type of feedback are you getting?
I always tell people this. People who don't want the books, they just simply say no. You know, I think that there's a misconception that our people don't read, even though the contradiction is that our youth are on Facebook, social media reading. If you say one thing they don't like, you might get unalived. They're reading. So what's the difference between being reading something on social media and picking up a book? So I would say 4 out of 5 people accept the books. Now being out there 6 days a week, because this is what I learned from Dr. Bruce Bridges. It's not enough just to give a book, put a book in somebody's hand. You have to be familiar with the content. Yeah. I'm familiar with the content. So the book I give is just an extension of the conversation. Before I put the book in their hand, I've already had a conversation with them about what's in the book. I'm giving them the option. I got 5 books, choose one. This book is about this. This book is about that. This book is about that. Choose the one that fits you the best. So I already give out lectures, street corner lectures before I even give the book away.
So every book you give away, you've read?
9 out of 10.
Wow.
I have about 3,000 books in my own personal library. And that's I probably read about, because I used to be the type, I would read the book, then buy another book, then I would read the book. But I started going to these used bookstores and hitting Amazon. So now I just grab up like maybe 40 books a month. Some of them I give away, some of them I keep. But out of the 3,000 books, I probably read about a good 75% of them.
Wow. Now, has anybody
this is over years and years though.
Right. Has anybody returned the book and was able to kind of have some dialogue with you about the book you gave them? So
I don't ask them to return
it to someone else?
I asked them to pass it on to somebody else.
Go ahead. How do you know the books are helping? So the people you go give the books to, do you go back around to see have they read or what they gotten out of the books that you give?
Yeah, because I'm on the block, the same spot 6 days a week.
Oh, you're on the same block. Okay.
Oh, okay. I was thinking you walked around and, you know.
Same
Okay.
spot, same location, 6 days a week. And when people ask me that question, I kind of flip the script. I say, every school year, people give out book bags, thousands of book bags.
Mm-hmm.
How you know they're using those book bags for books? How you know they're not putting weapons in those book bags? See, those kind of questions aren't posed to people who give out the book bags. People give out book bags. Who are they putting in the book bags if they're not reading books?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
So
giving
what
them
would
something to put in the book bag.
Yeah, I mean, if people aren't reading, why are these churches and organizations giving out thousands of tens of thousands of book bags every school year if people aren't reading books? Plus, the city of Durham gave Book Harvest at least $263,000 to give out children's books last year, and they got a big sign that says Durham City of Books written on the side of buses. But when it comes to me digging out my own pocket with no grants, people ask me those type of questions. But when the city council gives these people $200,000-$300,000 and calls it Durham City of Books, nobody questions them. Because I'm doing this out of my pocket. I might pay the place I get my used. People have donated books, and I thank them for it. But for the most part, in the last couple of years, I just go to a used bookstore and get it for like 75 cents, $1. I might spend $3. If I find a book like the new Jim Crow and it's $3, I might get some of those. But I can't invest 75 cents with the possibility that I might read it. You can't make a flyer up, a color flyer, and pass it out on the street for 75 cents. So I'll take that gamble, my money.
So with your operation, are you the only one who's doing this? Do you have a team?
It would be nice if I could say I got a law. I mean, I got a few people who have mostly donated books and wristbands, but out there on the street, actually doing the boots on the ground work, 99% of the time it's me. I'm just a spark. It's hard. See, Durham has set a precedent. I don't know if you all read comic books. Anybody remember Luke Cage, Power Man?
I
No?
know about it, but I didn't read comic books.
There was a comic book dude, black dude, called Luke Cage, Power Man. And while Captain America and Thor and the rest of them were out there fighting against the bad guys and saving the world, risking their lives for free, he was charging people. He was a hero for hire. So that's the precedent Durham has set with I call them the grant money mafia. If it doesn't pay, people won't do it. So it's hard to get people to do it if it's not a paycheck, because they'll look at, if you ask them to do it for free, they'll say, well, they just gave this nonprofit $1 million to do it. Why you asking to do it for free? But I just got in my heart that it's worth the risk. It's worth the investment. That's just not everybody, unfortunately.
Now, do you have, I would say, you have to have someone that kind of pops in here and there to kind of help you out and kind of assist you with that knowledge, or at least one person?
Every blue moon. I mean, like I said, people have donated from all segments of Durham, have donated books. Over the last 2 years, since I found like a real cheap used bookstore I can get the books from, I don't really need that kind of help. But last year alone, we probably gave out like 1,000 African-centered wristbands in the neighborhood, close to 100 Afrocentric T-shirts, necklaces, African necklaces, and just passed them out for free on the street. I couldn't afford that by myself.
Yeah.
A lot of people from all walks of life said, brother, you need some wristbands. I know you're passing out necklaces. So yeah, on that way it was a group effort, but everybody's not comfortable in the proverbial hood. And I don't put that on people because I can't pay for nobody's funeral.
That was my next question on how comfortable are you out there in the neighborhood?
I'm very comfortable.
Well, you've been there for so long, so everybody knows you, right? So there's a certain level of
years.
respect.
I mean, I was doing it on the West End for 20 years. I saw the kids grow up, but like I said, the only reason I left the West End because it became gentrified.
Now, do you get any pushback from any kids that see you standing out there, or any parents that see you standing out there?
No.
You get any pushback? No pushback.
I mean, who gets mad at free stuff?
I mean, you never know this day and age.
But I look at it this way: if you have a mission and the people know you truly care, they don't really mess with you. Look at the Jehovah's Witness; they come knock on your door at 8 o'clock Saturday morning. Nobody bothers them. Look at the church groups; they come rolling up in the hood, in their buses at 7 a.m. blowing a horn when you're trying to sleep in the hood. Nobody messes with them. Look at the people who are canvassing the neighborhoods, even the MAGA people in the hood knocking on doors. Nobody messes with them.
But as far as you're standing out there, if I'm correct, you're standing out there all day. I'm thinking that you might be messing up some, so you're not standing out there all day. You just passing through.
Hours, 2 hours in the evening. 2 hours in the evening, 6 days a week at least.
Okay, I haven't been in the hood in a long time. I'm just, when you explain it to me, I'm picturing like it's like you messing up operation while you standing out there passing out books, and kids and doing other things.
Because that's why I don't go directly into a proverbial hood. Okay. I go like a block away.
Okay.
I'm not invading anybody's territory, but I'm getting all the walk-through traffic.
Gotcha.
You're going to the store, you're going to the convenience store, you're walking past me, and I give you the information to take back. So I see the same people without invading people's quote-unquote turf.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna be really honest with you. I don't know where the hood is. I live in Durham, but I don't know where the hood is. I'm not from North Carolina, so.
But you got a hood somewhere. Where you from?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
There's some places, but listen, there's places in every state, right?
Now Portland has the Aryan Nation type action. I mean, that's their history. Those people.
I would say more gangs, I would say more blood crip, the era I grew up in, if that makes sense. So it was more of that. But I do want to ask you, let's get into Durham politics, because I know you're very vocal about that. And some of the discords groups that we're both in, that I see you commenting on every day. Let's talk about the mayor and his efforts in Durham. How are we feeling about how he's done since he's been elected, and how do you feel he's poured into Durham?
Let me start with the good first.
Okay.
I voted for him.
Yes.
2, I told him to his face, as long as he looked out for the less affluent neighborhoods, he would have no problem with me. If he sees me say something about him on social media, he will call me at 7:30 in the morning and say, Paul, why you ain't call me? That's the good part. To me, he's accessible. I talk to him. We have conversation. On the other hand, if you ask me, has he returned my invitation to come to the streets? No. Do I feel like he's connected to the proverbial hood more so than the middle class? No. But a lot of that has to do with the people. You get the politician, the people get the politicians they demand. If you don't go to city council meetings, if you don't go to county commissioner meetings, if you don't go to school board meetings, you get what you get. You got to be engaged. And although I'm not a big fan of voting per se, even though I do vote, the only reason I vote is because, like that little scare tactic they're using right now, your name goes on a list. And before those politicians even will have a conversation with you, they're going to check that list and see how engaged you are. Because if you're not engaged, especially locally, their attitude is going to be, you don't even vote. Why should I talk to you?
Do you feel as though I know you said you made a deal, or you asked him, if he were elected, to kind of pour into some of the neighborhoods. Do you feel like he hasn't, if he were there long enough in that position, he would do so? Or do you kind of feel like he is beyond it now and he's looking more into maybe infrastructure of Durham and not the less fortunate?
I think what he's doing is focusing on the brand. I think the whole hanging with the Kamala campaign, I guess his strategy is to elevate Durham's image. But if you leave the hood behind, there's still going to be children unaliving each other. I talked about this in the New York Times back in 2018. They did a feature on me in 2018 in New York Times. And the name of the story was Black Residents Ask, is there still room for us in the new Durham? And nothing's changed since 2018. So we really can't put it all on the mayor, but a great deal of the responsibility, since he is mayor, that's what he signed up for, to be mayor for everybody in Durham, not just the elite.
Do you feel like so I'm one of those things where I think about is he has a business in Durham, right?
A couple.
A couple businesses in Durham. Do you kind of feel like it's one of those things where if you want to progress, you have to join? You have to join, right? Or you have to be a part of the progression if you want to progress. And
but that's Durham, though. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do you feel like that's where people kind of fail to connect with him because he's, looking at it as, I want to see my business grow and flourish. So therefore, I'm going to join and do something about it, right? Versus a lot of people that are on the sidelines that are still complaining about their businesses.
I mean, that's why he won. Durham is a get money city. Durham has always been a get money city. Everybody read the book. It's on my shelf somewhere. Dr. E. Franklin Frazier's book, The Black Bourgeoisie. Durham is in that book. Durham has always been a good money city. Get this money by any means necessary. While other cities were fighting for civil rights and black power, Durham was like, nah, we trying to get this money. If you watch any documentary about Durham, if you read any book about Durham, it's going to say compromise, compromise, compromise. Unfortunately, what happened is the youth picked up that same mentality, and they don't differentiate that get money mentality from illegal and legal. But again, E. Franklin Frazier writes about this in the book Black Bourgeoisie. And another good book, Upbuilding Black Durham, Leslie Brown, he goes into that whole elitism in Durham from a pro-elitist standpoint.
Oh, wow. I need to read that. You need to save that book for me.
I was looking at
Stanford Air Warren Library. This is my only copy. Stanford Air Warren Library on Feather Street. They used to give away the best books, Black history books, for like $2 or $3. I'm not giveaway. They used to sell like $2 or $3. So that's where I got that from. And hopefully the library will be back open December.
Is that the Black-owned library?
Yeah, on Feather Street. It's either the first or second oldest Black library in either the United States or I know North Carolina.
Okay. They need a coffee shop, like a 2-in-1. I'd be there all day. I love to read.
I mean, I think there used to be a book coffee shop somewhere in there.
So I seen something you said. I think I speak for all those who are free thinking voters. If you have your lips poked out at us for our political decisions before the election, keep that same energy after the election. So, what is a
Yeah,
free thinking voter?
I'm an independent.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an independent, and I ain't gonna be bullied into voting for nobody. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be. I voted for Cornel West. Why? Because I had already had in my mind to vote for Cornel West, even if he ever ran.
Look
But
at you
he
and
deals.
Leon. You guys are both
Hmm?
two in the same.
Hmm?
She said we're two in the same.
She did too.
Yeah, I mean, because he runs with people on my side of the fence. He's
Mm-hmm.
not a he's not a scared to associate with people who run on my side of the fence. So I always said if he ever ran for president, I would vote for him. So I did,
There's
but
nothing
I
wrong with
refuse. Yeah, I don't want to. I didn't want to vote for the person who almost wiped out civilization as we know it. That wasn't going to happen. That blood wasn't going to be on my hand, and I didn't feel like being bullied and shamed into voting for the other for the vice president. So, like I said, but either way, I was going to vote for Cornel West if he ever ran anyway.
that. Mm-hmm. What about Jill Stein? No.
Um, I'm not really that familiar with her or the Green Party for that. For matter of fact, I know except I got a little bit of interest when Bernie Sanders was on that side of the fence,
Mm-hmm.
but with Dr. Cornel West, as far as his contributions to Black liberation theology, is unparalleled.
I actually like Bernie. I voted for him. A lot of my
Mhm.
friends didn't like him because they felt like he looked disheveled, and he didn't have a great PR marketing team. I thought that was the dumbest thing ever. I mean, excuse
Yeah,
me, I still love my friends, but appearance to me means nothing. But
yeah, a lot of people didn't like him because of his socialist tendencies. But
mhm.
these are the people who never studied socialism.
But also these are the people now that you go back and he's like, I told you so.
Mhm.
I told you so. But no
Yeah.
one listened to me because he sat there. He did look like a crazy man at the when he was sitting there with his little mittens on and everything. I'm like, okay, I get it, friend. I see what you see. I see what you see. But again, he's still sitting back like I told y'all niggas. Y'all didn't want to listen to
Yeah,
me. But
when you deal with socialist theory, it's real practical, it's real scientific, and
mm-hmm.
and they practice something called dialectical materialism,
Yeah.
dialectics. If you deal with dialectics, you're not going to be wrong too many times because
Mm.
that deals with the idea that there are contradictions within everything.
Yeah.
So tell me, because you keep the conversation flowing in the Discord. Do you feel that in the Discord I'm talking about is, I believe is it, are we, you from Durham? What's it?
You know you from
Are,
Durham, something like that.
The
are we
Discord
working?
on Facebook. On Facebook.
Oh, you from Durham, Rachel and
Yeah.
those
You
pages.
you you keep the Discord going, and I love it with your posts
Now,
there.
I want to shout those moderators out for giving me that leeway
Mm-hmm.
because they weren't really built for the conversations. That's not how they get their 20,000 people for those types of conversations. And those conversations are actually bad for business. But I want to thank the moderators for letting me in that space. I mean, 20,000 people, if they wanted to, they could be the most powerful political force in Durham if they so choose. They got 20,000 people who are engaged on a regular basis.
Why do you think those conversations are bad for? I understand what you're saying, but why do you think that is so? Those conversations are bad for business.
The same reason Cardi B was speaking for Vice President Harris the other night. That's the mentality of our people. Unfortunately, drama and foolishness. I'm not going to put a percentage of it, but a large number of our people are into that. So that's going to get the clickbaits. That's why, I've done my share of writing back in the day, especially hip hop writing. I used to be a hip hop writer, all hip hop. I still write for the Final Call every blue moon. But one of the reasons I stopped writing a lot of stuff is now, except for the Final Call, but other places that I used to write for, you got to curse, you got to butcher the English language, you got to do a lot of drama, and that's not what I'm about. But that's what the people are right now.
Yeah. I do notice a change, when Paul is posting in the group, because they're very thought-provoking posts, right? And they're also questions as why and what do you think, and how do you feel as pertains to our youth and Durham, and politics within Durham, right? And then right after that, somebody will post, I was going 55 on, I was going 85 on 55, watch out. Then it's a million posts on, that. But then you look at Paul, and there's maybe 2 or 3, but on his post. But it's people, I think, that kind of are able to have that type of conversation with you. And there's a certain level, right? To a point where it's like, do I join in? Am I able to kind of, I would say, without embarrassment, can I respond, or can I ask a question, or, create that dialect with you? It seems like it may be easier to respond on this post by saying, well, you're dumb. Why would you be doing that? And you have bad tags, because that's majority of the time the conversation, right? Versus you, when you're talking about what can we do to help our Black youth in Durham, they don't know how to have that conversation. So it's easier versus the embarrassment they may have for even, responding.
I don't want to blame hip hop, but I can blame hip hop because I've been hip hop since I was 14 years old. I've been a hip hop writer. I used to work in radio. I was the first person really probably in North Carolina to play NWA on the radio, which I got fussed out for. I'm not really proud of that. So I have a history with hip hop. So I kind of blame hip hop. There's a theory called the dumbing down of America. And it was systematically done to make us less conscious. And even some of the so-called conscious rappers, instead of elevating the people, even some of our leaders, instead of elevating the dialogue, they lowered the bar. They lowered the bar. And I just refuse to lower the bar. I try, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I mean, dealing with socialist theory, I can speak the language of the lumpen proletariat. I can speak the language of the lumpen. I can also speak to the petty bourgeoisie without compromising my principles and not dumbing down the conversation.
I was just going to ask you, do you know who D1 is? The rapper D1?
Do I know him personally? No. Do I know of him? Yes. See, a lot of these conscious hip hop cats I know personally. But I know of D1. I know of his criticisms of hip hop going back to 20. See, he's been around a while. He's been doing that since 2013.
Yeah, he's been around a while. Yeah, but he just now
starting. He's been doing the same criticisms since 2013.
So let me ask you another question. So one of the topics we've had the last couple of weeks on our podcast has, of course, it's been surrounding the election and politics and policy and all of the things. Our youth. There's been a topic on our youth. Do you feel, because you're, boots on the ground, you're out in these streets and talking to everyone, do you feel that parents are involved with their children in school and ensuring they're getting the most out of their education? Because we see a lot of complaints. School is closed. The bus isn't picking my kid up, but I'm not seeing anybody saying, well, I got, room in my car. Can I pick your kid up for school?
There is a 5-year-old sister who walks by me with her mother or grandmother or grandfather a couple of times a week. She runs straight up to me and says, give me my book. One time I tried to give her something I had. I think somebody had donated some little girl's pocketbooks, and I tried to give her one. She looked at me and said, "Give me my book." 5 years old. So I can't make a generalized conversation. And actually, the young brother who actually inspired me to start the Black Hoodie Brigade, 14 years old. Because my attitude is, I'm a renegade. I roll solo. I don't want to start a movement. I'm a writer. I'm an activist. Last thing I want to do right now is start a movement. But the youth, this 14-year-old kid inspired me to do it. But yeah, some of the parents are involved. But then again, some of these parents are 17, 18 years old.
Now, do you
How can you teach something nobody's taught you?
do you have somewhere or a place that you hold meetings with the youth, anything like that?
On the street, on the corner.
Just on the street? Okay.
On the corner. Yeah, on the corner, on the street corner. All 4 seasons. I've been blessed, especially, I just been blessed, period. As far as the weather, I haven't, even on the West End, when I was doing it once a week, I didn't miss too many Sundays going out there. And for the last 2 years, we really haven't had a winter. So I haven't had to stop.
Now, you say you're a minister. What kind of minister are you?
Originally?
Yeah.
Originally, I was licensed as a Baptist minister in 1996. I was ordained in 1998, Baptist minister. I left the church in 2020, 2004, something like that, and hit the street and just became a street minister. I left the 4 walls. But yeah, I've been associate minister and things like that. And plus I began to embrace Black liberation theology, which is different, a lot different. Well, I won't say a lot different. There's a different connotation than the traditional Christianity. So in order to avoid conflict with grandma and them and the usher board, I said, let me hit the streets where I can be free.
So you don't think you still can be inside the walls and do your work also in the streets yourself?
I probably could, but why should I? I mean, if I'm already reaching people on YouTube, if I'm already talking to the people I need to talk to directly, why would I need to be inside the wall instead of highways and byways? My sister, well, I ain't gonna say that. I would say some people, put it this way, some people will come up to me and say how their pastor talks about how, we need to be in the street and we need to be in the street. Why would I be in a church talking about needing to be in the street if I'm already in the street?
That's some good, great knowledge you have there.
I mean, they say that. I mean, you go to somebody shot in Durham, these pastors, after they're hooping and hollering, we need to be out there in the street with the people. We need to be out there in the people. Jesus would have been out there in the street with the people. I'm already in the street with the people.
So you're saying they're out there after the fact?
If they're out there at all. I mean, but it's not for me to judge. Paul can only be Paul.
Well, you're not necessarily judging. You just call them what you see.
Yeah.
I mean, I observe the protocols of the ministry, because let me again start with the good. I'm not feeding hundreds of people. I'm not paying people's rent. I'm giving out books. So I'm not giving out thousands of book bags. So there's a need. I can't judge, because they may be doing a need I'm not doing because they have the resources. But that's why
I would say no, because you're handing out books, right? And How do people know about the person handing out books? How do people know what's in that book? Word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
So you never
But
know how many people you're feeding.
yeah, I mean, I agree and I appreciate that. But as my critics would tell me, you can't eat a book.
Mhm.
No, you cannot, but you can
So if
learn
you're
how to
not
feed
dealing,
yourself from one.
yeah. So, but if you're not dealing with the food, clothing, and shelter, that's going to take priority over any book. So if a church is providing food, clothing, and shelter, who am I to judge? But don't talk about being out in the streets if you ain't doing it. That's all I ask.
All right. What do you think are some of the root causes of street crime in Durham?
People not dealing honestly with the root. There's something I've been exploring. I've been trying to get our city council to look into. There's something called the T Hart Amendment that Baltimore just sued the ATF about last December,
Okay.
which means that although we as community activists always ask the police, where are these guns coming from? How are these youth getting AR-15s? Legally, they can't tell you. It's called the T Hart Amendment. Legally, police, law enforcement can't tell you where the guns are coming from, except kids are breaking into cars, stealing them. But as far as, is it coming from the gun show? Is it coming from out of state? Is it coming from a particular store, a gun shop? Is it coming from the fairgrounds? Under the T Hart Amendment, they can't tell you that. And Baltimore right now is suing the ATF to try to get it overturned. Kamala Harris, Vice President, excuse me, then Senator Kamala Harris back in 2019, she actually co-sponsored a bill to do the same thing. So that's just one of the things. We're not being honest about where the guns are coming from. We're not being honest about where the drugs were coming from. I'm a fan of Gary Webb, who wrote the book Dark Alliance. They talked about the CIA drug connection, how the CIA more than allegedly put drugs in South Central LA to fund the war. We don't deal with those types of root causes. Most of the root causes, these city leaders and city law enforcement, no disrespect, but it's true, they just deal with respectability politics. If these young black men would pull up their pants, all would be right with the world. But we can't have this conversation without having the CIA drug connection conversation as well. We can't have the conversation about gangs unless we talk about how J. Edgar Hoover wiped out the Black Panther Party in about, 2 years and left a void for the gangs to form. We can't have those conversations unless we have those conversations.
And that's been going on for a long time, the drug and the guns. And
Mm-hmm.
you had this thing where they say, stop the violence, stop the guns, stop the drugs. But they've been bringing it in for years. And I don't
Yeah,
see
this is
it ever stopping.
1983 we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
We
And
just spoke
before that,
on the podcast, excuse me, where we were last week. Earlier this week, we were talking about, the big thing now is that the illegal immigrants are the ones bringing over the drugs. And I beg to differ with that because it's been coming over for years, plane, trains, automobiles. It's not one person or a family that's bringing in that on their back, right? I feel like we've been turning a blind eye to that for years.
yeah, look at the heroin trade. What was it called? The Golden Triangle back in the Vietnam era when they were bringing heroin in. And there are different theories. I'm not even going to say conspiracy theories. There are different theories that it was purposely dumped in neighborhoods in the 60s to destroy the Black Power movement.
Mm-hmm. I think
Read about the
it was
Black
something similar
Liberation
with
Army.
the crack epidemic.
Yeah, read about the Black Liberation Army and how they used to rob drug dealers and pour the drug down the drain.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's
Shout
definitely
out to
been around for a while. Why do you think it's so big now? Why are people it's so concerned now when, more worried about illegals bringing it in than, you know, the opioids that are being distributed through these doctors and all these other big pharma places. Why do you think it's so big now that people are kind of concerned?
Low-hanging fruit. They want to blame the usual suspect, the young black male.
Mm-hmm.
That's who they want to blame. They want to put everything on hip hop and the young black male, even though we don't control the hip hop industry. Even drill music. There's a good documentary that I can't think of the name of right now. Talks about the drill music everybody complains about is some European people from overseas who actually popularized it.
Yeah.
But it's easy to blame Tyrone on the corner. Low-hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
If we stopped all the drugs and all the guns and all the crime in Durham, look who loses money. The non-industrial, the non-profit industrial movement, they lose money. Who I call the grant money mafia. The police lose money. The people who make the prison uniforms lose money. Everybody loses money if the violence and the guns and the drugs will stop them all. There's too much money involved. There's a video on YouTube about Glock and how Glocks are purposely marketed to black neighborhood. It's part of it's in German, but 90% of it is in English. So it's called Glock. It's on YouTube.
It's funny you say that. Lately, I've been seeing some kids walk around. I don't know where these shirts are coming from, but instead of saying "In God we trust," it's saying "In Glocks we trust."
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that a couple. Yeah, I've seen that a couple. I've seen something at the fair. I'm like, that's crazy.
At the fair?
Yeah, I've seen some people wearing shirts, and they are black kids with shirts on saying "Glocks we trust."
That's
probably and I've seen it somewhere else.
That's probably a Raleigh. That was probably a Raleigh thing.
I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in Durham. I don't think people in Durham want to bring that kind of attention to themselves.
Well, I hope not.
What would be the difference? Why do you think it's such a huge difference between Raleigh and Durham?
Because Raleigh has a higher economic base than Durham. Raleigh has learned how to monetize their activism. If you go to a community meeting in Durham, you got a bunch of poor folks scraping pennies together, trying to do the best they can with what they got, like me, with the pennies they have in their pocket. You go to Raleigh, everybody got a nonprofit, and everybody got money. Different mentality.
You think it's that much different?
It's a lot different. They found a way to monetize the movement in Raleigh. Everybody in Raleigh got a nonprofit to do what people in Durham do for free. Well, some people in Durham do for free. Other people get paid millions of dollars. That's another story.
So you don't believe in nonprofits, or you just don't have one?
I mean, I believe in it, but I think there's a difference. I don't think any money comes without strings attached. I think there's a lot of cronyism and nepotism involved anytime you're dealing with grant money. I think in Durham, if you throw $5 on the floor in front of nonprofits, you're gonna have a fist fight. There's a book by Insight called "The Revolution Will Not Be Funded." It's a must read.
So, are you familiar with any nonprofits in Durham? What do you the reason why I ask, I would say, have you found one that kind of mostly aligns with your activism and how you feel as far as with Durham and their youth and all of the other politics around?
No, and again, I am not. If they're feeding people, I'm not feeding people. I'm not taking kids on trips to Carowinds and King's Dominion. So what they do is what they do. But as far as what I do, I think it would be bad. Are you talking about bad for business? It would be bad for business.
Gotcha.
I mean, you don't want the board of directors asking you why you having people reading about the Black Panther Party. Isn't that racist? You know. So nobody wants those kind of problems if you got a nonprofit. You're trying to keep the lights on. But the flip side of that is you're going to be like me on street corners in the hood. But
And
I'm free,
do you ever try to raise money or put out anything on social media to help
now,
fund
people just
things?
volunteer. You
They
know
just
what,
volunteer?
people? I had something called. Now I haven't done it in the last 2 years because I don't need it. But the independent magazine, Indie Week, they put an article out about something I was doing 3 years ago called Bull City Griot. And I called that Durham's first free mobile bookstore. So I was just giving away books right around Durham, giving away books out my trunk. But a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, a handful, I would say a handful of people. Now, I'm not going to tell that lie, a lot of people. A handful of people did donate books. Some people donated a couple of dollars to get books. Some people donated like Amazon cards for me to get books. So yeah, it's been a group effort. But over the last 2 years, besides the wristbands and the T-shirts we were passing out, I'm pretty good on the books because I probably have a couple of 100 books in my trunk, and I probably have maybe 1,000 books that my wife is killing me to give away. Probably I'm stepping on right now in my office.
She's like, give them out. Now, does she go out with you sometimes?
No. Somebody got to be around if I ain't here.
I was going to ask you, the way you said no, I know.
Ask
you. It's like, you're like, nah, I don't want
somebody got to take care of the grandchildren if I'm not here.
Mm-hmm. You see, I didn't ask any additional questions after that. So it was a firm no.
But I mean, she's real supportive. She's like the wind beneath my wings. A lot of the stuff I do, she actually keeps me on point. Because sometimes there's a community meeting and she'll wake me up at 6 o'clock and say, aren't you going to that community meeting? I'm like, no, I ain't going. And she'll bug me all day until I go.
Mm-hmm.
But out there on the street with me, nah.
Do you think Black Wall Street will ever come back?
I think we need to understand the real history behind Black Wall Street and how Black Wall Street wasn't really for all Black people. It was for a certain class of Black people. If you go to the third floor of the library in the North Carolina Reading Room, you can find out what really happened with the Haiti. You can find out what really happened with urban renewal. All that information is on the third floor of the North Carolina Reading Room at the library downtown. But people don't want to have that conversation. Because what we're dealing with when we're talking about Black Wall Street, we're talking about what happened to Haiti, the shootings and the things happen with our youth. They're mad because they know subconsciously somebody stole great-great-grandma's house. They don't know how to express their anger, but they know it subconsciously. But we won't deal with that truth. A lot of people that we look up to and name post offices after and call heroes, they had a lot to do with urban renewal. People in Durham don't talk about it, but they did.
So what?
Go back and pull the old Carolina Times articles.
What do you hope to see in the future for all Black communities? Now, I asked that because some people say gentrifying is not necessarily a bad thing. You think it's a bad thing?
I don't trust capitalist greed at all. I don't trust capitalist greed at all. I think that it could be under a different name if it was more geared toward economic prosperity and shared economic prosperity. It could work, but you're dealing with a lot of capitalist greed. As long as you don't change that mentality, it's going to be what it is.
And some people say, some people also
gentrification is kind of a broad term, and people use it loosely. But the bottom line is, going back to socialist doctrine, who's going to control the means of production? That's the question.
Yeah, some people also say, when it comes to that gentrifying, blacks should be. I guess I don't know. It's some blacks that could afford to rebuild a community and buy a community, but I don't think they are making a real effort to do so.
Is it
and working together?
Well, I mean, it's probably not in their best interest to do so.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this question. What does reparations look like for you?
Durham already gave $6 million of reparations like 2 years ago, and most people don't know about it.
I heard about it.
It went to trees.
It went to where?
And bike parks. Trees. They made trees. They made national headlines as having a reparations. First, they had a reparations, what you call it? When the city council proclamation, that made national news. Then under Mayor Schewel, Durham allotted $6 million for reparations, but it was for green infrastructure, trees, more trees in the hood.
Yeah, look that up.
That's what happened in Durham. Go back.
Go back and Google. But I didn't do a deep dive into where the money went. So
it went to trees. Go back and Google WUNC article. Durham $6 million. It's there. It went to trees.
So if it didn't go to trees, or if it didn't happen, what does reparations look like to you?
More money for the less fortunate, ideally. I think I really don't get to. I support the argument, but it's not something I would have devoted too much time on. I support, but I am in support. I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be against it at all. I'm for it ideologically, but it's just not a fight I've chosen to put my head on. But I support it. I ain't going to ever speak against people fight for reparations, because is it needed? Is it deserved? Yes, that should be the question. Not how we're going to do it. Is it deserved? Yes. Can the United States do it? Yeah. They gave everybody $400 for Thanksgiving under your boy, 4 years ago. Everybody had $400 to get Thanksgiving dinner, so they can do what they want to do. Now, can they do it without urban unrest? When Breonna Taylor and not Mike Brown, who was it? George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and people riding in the streets, money came from everywhere. When Richard Nixon, when there was rioting in the streets with Richard Nixon pulled money from everywhere and put people in colleges and gave them businesses, because he said, I would rather have you in college than riding in the street. Richard Nixon said, nah, we're not talking about black power, we're talking about green power. So he pulled money from everywhere. People just don't want to call it reparations, but that's what it was.
Yeah, but it don't even look like this. They don't want to give it. They ain't gonna give it. It ain't gonna ever happen.
I mean, it'd be they've really already given it. It's just always under another name. Let some kid get unalived by the police tomorrow, and there'll be riots and all over the country. Money will be coming from everywhere. They just won't call it that because they don't want the pushback. But they have the money.
Well, what do you see, or where do you see the Black Hoodie Brigade in 3 years from now?
We only have one mission. We're not trying to feed everybody. We're not trying to clothe everybody. Our only mission is to get a book, read a book, teach what you learned in that book to somebody else and repeat the process. That's it. So 3 years from now, I hope the process continues. I hope it expands. I keep it simple, But that's why I talked about the nonprofits and the churches. You can't eat a book. You can't eat an African medallion. So if you're feeding the people and doing that service, more power to you. All I'm doing is spreading knowledge. Knowledge is power.
Indeed.
Now, would you ever do that? Would you consider feeding and clothing?
If I had the money?
Yeah.
If I had the money, it would be my moral obligation. I used to pass out snacks on the West End. It was like chips and stuff. But being a non-grant person, I got to make $1 out of 15 cents. And books are kind of inexpensive. Even the medallions and the wristbands and the African stuff. You go on Amazon, that stuff is really, really inexpensive. It requires a vision and desire to do it. I mean, you can take $100 and buy the whole hood African medallions if you wanted to.
Love that.
All right. Well,
I got red, black, and green flags flying all around Bragtown. Nobody's as bad as they say the hood is. Nobody since last March, nobody's touched them. I just had to replace them about a week ago because they faded away. But I got them on the poles around Bragtown. People respect it. Nobody's touched it. And those cost like pennies.
Yeah.
Now I was about to ask you. I forgot what I was about to ask. Well, when you go to the meetings, community meetings, or the meetings downtown,
Public forum.
Public forums. What do you stand up and speak and get voice your opinion?
Yeah, I mean the ones I go to. I usually go to Mr. James Chavis's PAC 1 meetings at what is it? On Driver Street. What's that place called? My memory's failing me. But yeah, the PAC 1 meetings I usually go there because he usually brings the politician. Yeah, I speak, but I like to hedge my bets. I like to hedge my bets. And if I spoke on it, I already put it into motion. I play chess, not checkers. If I'm going to bring it up, I already know I'm gonna win. Other than that, just stay quiet.
Well, for your thoughts and the things that you're doing and speaking about, what are your responses that you're getting from it?
The same response they've always given people like me in Durham. I mean, they run people out. The minister although they talk about the royal ice cream boycott of 1950 something and how Durham is proud, the history book said they ran him out of town. The bourgeoisie ran him out of town allegedly. Malcolm X, this is my pride and joy. Somebody let me hold. There used to be a Malcolm X University, Malcolm X Liberation University back in 1968 through 1972. And that had to shut down and move to Greensboro.
What you got, a bag of chips in your lap?
No, I keep this book because this book is rare. You can't find this book. This is one of the original books from Malcolm X University.
Wow.
Excuse the noise.
It's okay.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, somebody donated books and Brother Sincere. And I said, you sure you want to give this book away? He said, hold it for me. All right. I said, okay, I'll keep it for safekeeping.
Yeah,
nobody else in the country has that book.
Get that thing wrapped up.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, you probably can't find it. You probably can't find 5 people in this country to have that book.
Wow.
Okay.
Maybe
Well, we
Howard
know
Fuller.
one person who does.
Yeah. Maybe Dr. Howard Fuller, who was one of the founders of Malcolm X University, Malcolm X Liberation University. But yeah, you probably can't find 5 people who actually have that book. I got a couple of books like that, actually. Only a few people probably have.
Mm-hmm.
Seek and ye shall find.
Yeah.
So give us some. Renee, you have any more questions?
I don't. This has been really good.
Yeah, because it's been good things that you're doing. I was gonna say, give us your final thoughts as far as the work you're doing and what you want people to know.
Knowledge is a weapon. If you give these children an alternative, they will go for it. The problem is people aren't really trying. You got to give these children an alternative. There are a lot of things that you assume are being done that just aren't being done. People always assume somebody else is doing, because when people critique what I'm doing, I'm like, what are you basing it on? Do you know anybody else who's giving out free books in the hood? What are you critiquing my movement if it's not been done before? But we have to be courageous. We have to be ingenuitive, if that's a word. I think it is. We have to, be all those things if we're going to make Durham better. And in my ministry, the Black Messiah Ministry, we have a motto. The Black Messiah Ministry, we have a motto: stop waiting for a savior and be one. Everybody's waiting for somebody else to do something. People wait for Martin Luther King to come back, Malcolm X to come back. People even wait for Tupac and Biggie Smalls to come back. So people wait for somebody to come down out the clouds. Stop waiting for a savior and be one. And for the church folks, and the church folks, for the church folks who might be, it's in the Bible. Not in those exact words, but you should do these works and greater works you shall do. Stop waiting for a savior and be one. Same thing.
All right. There you have it. So it was nice having you, man. Hope to be in touch with you. Say it again.
I said it's been an honor. I enjoyed this.
Okay. Appreciate it. All right. There you have it for another episode of the Impel Forward podcast. And remember, seize the opportunity to grasp your dreams.